some friends who are on a 5-month around the world. The
That's
broadcast
nice.
is live.
She's a winner.
And welcome to the Intuitive Entrepreneur Show, where we bring enlightened entrepreneurs, coaches, and influencers together to discuss cutting-edge topics for the world of relationships, culture, business, and spirituality. Here's your host, Max Anjanetta Jones.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Carol's Courage to Confidence segment of Max Anjanetta Jones, the Intuitive Entrepreneur Show. My name is Carol Boston, and you've been seeing me here every Wednesday. I'm always excited to be here, and you know, you've learned I'm your weather girl. So let me know where you're chiming in from in the comments and in the chat, because this young man and I are both in Florida, where it is absolutely gorgeous weather. We're probably the envy of the entire country. And I'm excited to be here today. Shawn, please introduce yourself and tell us what you're up to in the world.
So my name's Shawn Huber. I live in Clearwater, Florida, which is right near Tampa. So today was a little foggy, but 62 degrees. I'll take it any day. I'm a high performance coach and also a hypnotherapist. So I've put together my 15 years of coaching and 20 years of personal training with a little bit of massage for 18 years, together with a hypnosis to really tap into what I call the mental mechanics of how people work, how their physical and mental side come together to get healing done, and at the same time move themselves forward in life and in business to get the most out of what they want to without having those roadblocks in the way. So I've done this full-time coaching for about 7 years now.
Okay.
And I first started using it with clients in personal training because they weren't coming in on their own. So I'm like, how do I get people to come in on their own? So I started asking a lot of questions about why they were doing what they're doing. And sure enough, the coaching really got people to create some goal setting for themselves. They started coming in more often. And then they started doing things like running marathons or Tough Mudder races and just doing things that were outside their norm. And then they took it to even a further extent. And I used it a lot with some athletes who I started working with when they were in high school. They went to college and became professionals. A couple won gold medals. So it was interesting to watch like how someone thinks about what they're doing and who they are and what you can actually pull out of someone when you ask them deeper questions. So it played a huge role in getting people active and getting them, enjoying it while they're doing it, not just dreading going to the gym. Because as you know, January.
You brought up all kind of topics. We're never going to cover them all in 30 minutes.
I know, that's okay.
I'm an ex-collegiate and professional athlete, so of course this gets my wheelhouse running as well. So one of the first things that you said that struck me is, have you read the book Tiny Habits?
We have it. I haven't read it.
Great book, and I think you might already be applying some of it just intuitively when you talked about getting them to change that one thing, right, to come into the gym, to get them to be consistent, to get them to have a goal. I love that. I would love to know also what sport your 2 gold medalists were in.
So both were in women's soccer.
Oh, wow.
So when they went to Australia, and the woman came to me to get ready for her wedding. And the type of training, so I was the massage therapist for a University of North Carolina soccer team for 4 years.
Okay.
Right after Mia Hamm was there, I was there for I went to 2 national championships with them. So I was also a personal trainer, but I didn't want to overstep my bounds with the team because they had their own strength coach.
Mm.
So once this person graduated, she's like, I want to work with you to get in shape for my wedding. So not only did she get in shape, she lost like 25 pounds. But she became faster and stronger. And she would periodically go over the facility on campus and train. And their coach was like, what are you doing?
Mm.
And I wasn't training her like a guy. I was training her like she needed to be trained. Mm-hmm. So they had a lot of heavy weightlifting, and mine was more a medium weight movement where you're balancing. And she just got so much stronger. And the cool thing was her confidence came up. And she wasn't necessarily an aggressive player, but now she was playing as a confident player, and she wasn't being pushed around anymore, which was really cool to watch that. And I worked with the women, and she was a professional soccer player. She was I think she was 4'11", and they told her, they're like, "There's no way you're going to make the team." And she made the team, and she started for the team that was in North Carolina, the Courage. And it was talking to people about why they wanted to do what they wanted to do. And hers wasn't to be, oh, I'm the shortest soccer player. It was, I want to be the best at me. And that's where it all came from. And my big thing is, I don't want to improve and add a bunch of things to you. I want you to look at what you're presently doing and let's just focus on that to make that better first. Because when we start giving people a bunch of new things, it can be overwhelming. So like athletes, what are they different than a business person? Nothing. They just have a goal. And once they reach the goal, then they have other goals.
Yep.
And back then, that's when women's soccer, they came off their World Cup and they were really, really popular. Then they went to the Olympics. So they had a lot of momentum, but their league was designed by men, which was interesting. And why I say that is because a team from California would fly all the way over to the East Coast, play maybe one team, then fly back to the West Coast and come back. And I'm like, why don't you just play regionally first? And then the winners of each region come together. They just spent so much money on things that they didn't need to because there was so much hype. There was so much cash flow at the time that it really didn't matter. But as something progresses, you want to have it stable. And that's my big thing is I don't want you just to peak at your best. I want you to be stable at your best and keep setting new points as you keep improving. And that's the big thing with back in the day, you get ready for a race, you get ready for this, then what do you do afterwards?
Right. Exactly. You know, one of the things you said that I really like that most people don't say is you said that she wanted to be her best. She wanted to be the best at being her. And I was, do you know who TD Jakes is?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So he's one of the guys, I listen to him. He's my biggest TikTok feed, right? I get a lot of inspiration from him. But he recently said, he was being interviewed and he said, I don't want to be the best because if I'm trying to be the best, then I'm using you as my standard. Right. And if you're my standard, then I'm not going to rise to the level that I was created to rise. However, if I'm trying to be authentically me, then I become irreplaceable, right?
Oh, of course. And it's the thing is when you're racing someone and you get ahead of them, you feel better. But you're going to get to a point where there's no one ahead of you. And what do you do then?
Exactly.
Then you're always looking over your shoulder, worrying about someone passing you. And the reality of it is just keep getting better. And my thing is not only are you getting better, but you got to enjoy this process of getting better. I think that's where people are like, well, once I get there, then I'll have this or then I'll have that. I'm like, really? You sure about that? Because
what if you don't get there? Then you don't have anything?
Well, then they set these other goals and once I get there, then I'll have it. I'm like, well, you got all the money. And what have you sacrificed? Health, family, friendships. Was it worth it? Because what are you taking with you? What are you taking with you? Your memories.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that you said that I'd love for you to expand on a little bit is, you notice how I opened my segment here on Max's show, Carol's Courage to Confidence segment.
Right.
Because my show on Facebook Live every Monday at noon is Carol's Courage to Confidence Corner. Gotcha. And I have a great group that shows up and tons of comments, and I love it, and I love pouring into those people. But one of the things they've heard me say that I espouse is that confidence is not a feeling. I believe confidence is a decision to act. And once you get into action, right, then things begin to flow. Because if you're not in action, then you don't have anything you can measure. If you can't measure anything, then you can't manage anything, right?
Yeah, motivation is one that I always say is an emotion. You're feeling good about yourself. I'm okay, then why aren't you taking any action? It's not going to get any better than when you're motivated, right?
Right.
But the fear is, well, and I call it the what if. I'm like, you can look at what if amazing things are going to happen or the worst things are going to happen, but both could. What are you focusing on? And when you start to focus on the possibilities and the positive, everything else starts shifting that way. And to get people to think that way, they're like, well, what is difficult about it? I'm like, it isn't difficult. It's what's bombarding you every day that you're allowing into your brain or you're not aware of into your subconscious. Like the books you're reading, the movies you're watching. I mean, if you watch a violent movie, it's going to affect your sleep. If you're listening to certain things and you're not being objective to what's actually being said and you're not researching it, then that's what your belief system becomes. And there's nothing wrong with being around like-minded people if that's what you're looking for, but you have to then decide when you're making a shift, are the people that are around you supporting your new vision of yourself? And you're not leaving those people, you're going towards the people that are going to support you. And if those others want to come along, great. But we can't be worried about where we're at because we're never going to get to where we want to go.
And I believe not everybody's supposed to go with you to the next level, right?
No,
people are there for a purpose.
It's all temporary. Every relationship is temporary. And I talk about that with kids a lot. Parents are like, oh, my children. I said, listen, when your child turns the age that they can drive, they're gone. The necessity for mom and dad or whatever is not there because they're now more self-sufficient. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, my daughter's 12. In 4 years, she's driving. If I don't establish cool things we do together now, why would I want to establish them when she's older? It's not going to work. So the precedence is getting now is more important than maybe not having tomorrow. And I've been through some things with cancer and a heart attack where we look at cancer as more of like a hurricane. You can see it coming and you got to take action to make it better, and you do, and you get yourself prepared, and you don't know exactly what's going to happen, but you're ready.
Mm-hmm.
Where a heart attack's more like an earthquake.
Oh, yeah.
There may be a tremor, but bam, it hits, and you don't know what the devastation it's done until after the fact. And then there could be some afterwards, and you're always wondering, what can you do to prevent it? And there are things in your life you can take care of, but because that's such a different shock to your psychological system too, of not knowing, you start looking back going, oh yeah, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, maybe a year ago, I did feel that. Okay, that's what that was. Because you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Cancer creeps up like, oh, that's a little weird. I'll have that checked out. Heart attack, sorry. Hits you and you're like, what? And then you do everything possible to be healthier, but no one knows exactly what you're doing because they're not testing you. The only time they're checking you is when it's bad.
Exactly. Nothing preventative. I want to go back. I want to go back to something that you said, because one of the things I do in my coaching practice, one of my modules is how to become a professional athlete in your business.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to go back to what you talked about from a motivational standpoint. So motivation can be fleeting, right? Because emotions are fleeting. What one thing do you do on a consistent basis to help your clients get into action when they don't feel motivated?
So what I love for people to do, and I check up on them to make sure they're doing it, is a gratitude list. Like, what are you grateful for? So setting that tone and then putting that phone down or any electronic device 30 minutes before bed. And then when they wake up, they're like, okay, what am I looking forward to accomplishing? And that's where we're setting the tone immediately. And when you start to create those type of habits, it's easier to keep them going in a direction, being motivated, because they have a system set up where they're following it. Now, first couple of weeks is a little difficult because they'll do it and they'll get a reaction and they'll start to slip back. And I'm like, why are you slipping back? So I do actually give homework. And what I tell people is like, homework's for you. I'll go over it, but there's no grade to this.
Right.
But the big thing is on a scale of 1 to 10, where do you believe you're at? And that's our baseline. The other scale on 1 to 10 is what's your attitude towards it. Because if I can set an attitude and where they believe, I can change the attitude and the belief shifts. If the belief shifts and the attitude doesn't, it doesn't really move. So I want the attitude towards it and where they believe they are moving towards it to go together, because then I know everything's set up. So if you're completely driven in business but not in your health, it's not going to work. It's all or nothing. So everything's built around your life, not around your business.
I agree. People get to take that 360-degree view, right? Because how we do anything is how we do everything. I was on a call with a lady who became a new client this morning. And when we first spoke briefly last week, and I asked her, well, what's not working? And she gave me a little bit about business. And she goes, that's it. Everything else is fine. Let's have our call next week. So I start asking the questions today. And I'm telling you, I got a list this long on the relationship. And oh, I thought it was just all about the business. And she starts laughing.
It is all about the business.
It's a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
And even in the short call, I was able to help her start to see one of the patterns that's running through everything, right? It's running through her business, it's running through her personal life, it's running through her health and her relationships outside of her intimate relationship, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And people really are unaware. And it's one of the reasons I believe everybody gets to have a good coach, right? I don't know if you know who Christian Michelson is, but that's his mantra, right? Let's get the whole world coached. And I remember saying something, I was speaking from a stage one time, and I happened to mention that Oprah Winfrey at one point had 4 coaches. And someone asked her, well, why do you have 4 coaches? And she said, because no one is an expert in all 4 quadrants of my life. And I was kind of using this as an example. And I said, if you want advice on dating, I'm not your coach. I stay in my lane, right? I'm not your girl. But I made this one other statement about Warren Buffett. And I said, Warren Buffett had a coach. And this young man at the back of the room made some comment about money. And I asked him, I said, did I say he had a financial coach? Right. And that led into this great talk on judgment. So talk a little bit about that, about how you help your clients who can't see that they have this negative that's really setting a precedent for what they do or don't do.
Well, we as coaches may see it as negative. They see it as fine. So the objective is to say, hey, how would you like to improve this area? And the perception is if I've got a 9 on here and I got a 3 on here and I work on the 3, the 9 is going to drop. I'm like, why? Because my focus is being taken away the energy for where I'm being successful. I'm like, why do you think that? So most of them don't have hobbies, which blows my mind away. And I said, okay, let's get creative here. They're like, why? It's a waste of time. I'm like, really? So you realize that you have an analytical side of your brain and a creative side. And if you boost the creative side, the analytical is going to benefit. What? I'm like, trust me, let's work on this. And they're like, why does this work? I said the same reason is you have to recharge and refocus to get better, because without recharging, you burn out. So the things that you don't think are important are because someone told you they weren't, because if you realize they were, you've been working on them. And you see, quote, successful people, the hustle and grind. I'm like, and those people are on all kinds of medication and taking all kinds of things to give them this crazy energy, and they all burn out. So I will see someone in the coaching industry about to do an event or do something, and I'll call them up and I'll be like, hey, we should talk. They're like, why? I said, you're about to do something you haven't done. Your expenditure of time and energy into a particular thing is going to burn you out. Oh, no, I'm fine. I got it. I'm like, okay. Call them back week after. So how you feeling? I'm so sick. Why am I burned out? Because you're putting yourself outside your comfort zone without supporting it beforehand. So my whole thing is being proactive about this. So I'm not going to say, hey, you could do so much better. Like, oh, I want to lose 10 pounds. More like 30. No, it's like, great. What's that 10 pounds going to do for you? Well, what do you mean? Like, do you think it's going to make you feel better? Are you going to look better? Let's notice what you're looking at. Now, if they're just looking at the scale, that's only one marker. Right. Let's look at your inches. Let's look at how your clothes fit. Let's look at your sleep. Let's look at your attitude.
Your energy.
Right. How's that all going to be affected by 10 pounds? I'm like, you'd be quite shocked.
Absolutely.
And when people are great at something, I just spoke to a gentleman. He wants to lose 70 pounds, but he does CrossFit. He does all these things. And I'm like, okay. He says, what do you mean, okay? There's different ways to do things. Are you open to it? Well, yeah, because it's not changing. I'm like, great. Just because we can do something doesn't mean it's good for us. So I have to then deconstruct what he's doing and put it into compartments to understand how they're all affecting each other. Because stress is stress, be it good or bad. So if he's mentally stressed about financial stuff or home life, and then he goes to the gym and works out really hard, guess what? It's still too much stress. But to say to someone, you got to stop training so hard and relaxing more to get in better shape, they're like, that's crazy. I train hard to get in better shape. I'm like, no, It's too much. Your cortisol levels, your adrenal glands are getting fried even by the good stuff you're doing. Stress is stress. It's a compound thing. So it's giving people permission to relax and make more money by taking more vacation.
You remind me, I had to learn that the hard way back in 1989. I was in the gym one morning before work, and I walked over to the water fountain, and I bent down and I got some water, and I stood up and I couldn't see. I mean, I literally couldn't see. Needless to say, they call the ambulance, go to the ER, 24-hour wear heart monitor, and all this kind of stuff. And then I go see my doctor. He was like my second dad. And my heart was in great shape. I was doing a lot of cardio back then, being a tennis athlete, right? And he was like, your heart hardly even beats at night. Like, that's amazing. And he talked about my health, my physical health. And then he said, look at all those files out there, Carol. I've been a doctor for 30 years, thousands of patients. You're the healthiest looking female I've ever seen, but you could die tomorrow of a heart attack if you don't deal with your stress. And I'm like, what stress? I just had my best quarter in sales and I'm getting ready for a bodybuilding contest and blah, blah, blah. And I'm telling you, that's what you're saying is so important, because we're unaware until someone helps us become aware, and we get to be open to being aware. So he said to me, tell me about your work day.
Right.
With drive time and everything, it was about 14 hours. And he said, tell me about going to the gym. And I did. And he goes, do you talk to anybody at the gym? I'm like, I don't have time to talk to people. I got goals.
Yep.
He's like, okay, now we're getting somewhere.
You're like, stress, what do you mean?
You're so right. I mean,
that's what happened to me a year and a half ago. I had a heart attack a year and a half ago.
Okay.
So I go in after it's done, and he goes, you really don't need meds, but we're going to put you on this one just for a year. I'm like, okay. He goes, I can't tell you what to eat. I can't tell you what to drink. I can't tell you to exercise more. You're doing everything. He goes, you're the type of person, though, that's pushed themselves so hard that your stress physically has been damaging, and you could have higher cholesterol or whatever. So you got to learn how to relax. So I started taking Qigong. And so I'm
not familiar. What is that?
So you know what Tai Chi is?
Yes.
Okay. So Qigong is a Chinese version, or it's an offshoot where you work organ systems and energy systems. So your heart, your lungs, your spleen, your kidneys, your brain, you're connecting your right and left, like the vagus nerve, with sounds and movements. And, you know, I've been doing it for a year and a half, man. It is the best thing that I go to. And I'm not the typical person that's in there. So they're like, and when you realize, like, just sit still and do what?
Be.
I got to do just be. Yeah. What do you mean be? Listen to something. Allow someone to assist you. And that's where the coaching is huge, is you don't have to have a problem to get help. But most of the time people have problems or getting help. We're like, could you have come to me 4 months ago? Like, why'd you have to wait? Well, I thought I had it under control. Did you really? Well, no, I just didn't want to admit it.
That's a big, big thing, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, my wife said today that Tom Brady just announced his retirement again. And I mean, he's local here.
Yep.
He had his own trainer, which they started a company. And when he was in New England, they would get pissed that he had his own trainer. He's like, but I want the best. Well, look at the people we provide. He goes, that's fine. I don't say they're not, but I want what I want. Mm-hmm. And successful people have people in every aspect of their life assisting them.
Yes.
And one coach that I listened to, and he's so right, he goes, just because you can do it doesn't mean you have to do it. So you get to a certain point in your life, like, you shouldn't be grocery shopping. You shouldn't be cleaning your house. You shouldn't be cooking meals for yourself, because you should be enjoying your time for what you want, because you're putting out so much energy other places. It's not that you don't want to cook or don't know how to cook. You can cook, but why cook if you can spend time to be by yourself and to be with other people and to enjoy yourself? And that's what I think the huge thing is learning how to say, I have a certain amount of time a day. Where do I want to spend it the most and enjoy it the most, and have other people support you on that?
Now, I got to tell you, if you take away my cooking at night, that's like therapy for me.
See, that's the difference. I love cooking too. So that's the difference.
To put on music on my laptop, I make a cocktail, and I can be in the kitchen by myself for an hour. And it is just.
But did you just hear that? Did you just music, cocktail, you're enjoying it. There's some
Yes.
people like, oh, I got to cook tonight. And because their attitude towards it, I'm like, don't do it then. But if
Right.
you enjoy it and it brings happiness to you, then that's what you should be doing. But you shouldn't just be going through the motions to go through the motions. And again, there's food services out there now. There's people that provide like the ready-made meals. You just got to follow the directions. There's all kinds of things that are going on. It's just,
Sure.
why aren't you doing those?
Yeah. Interesting. So who is your ideal client? Is it an athlete or is your
No.
ideal?
So what I've learned from athletes, that CEOs and executives are athletes in their own right of how much brain power they're working.
Yep.
There's preseason, there's in season, there's postseason. A business person doesn't know that. And so they run 100% all the time without recovery. And when they recover, they go party a little bit too much, or they're so exhausted that they pass out when they get home, right?
Yep.
So my thing is to show them how to make slight adjustments to what they're presently doing. And then we take a look at if they want blood work, what their food intake is for what they're trying to accomplish, and how to make better choices with things they're already doing. The hypnosis really unlocks some stuff that they may have not wanted to deal with. I volunteer my time with a lot of cancer patients. So when they're going through chemotherapy, I do hypnosis on them. The hypnosis for a lot of people is new to them, but it unlocks so many things that are screwing them up that they just accelerate. So that executive, that CEO, that A-type personality is constantly pushing themselves. That's why I have it done for that's my ideal client. I really love working with them.
Have you ever had anybody that's that you were unable to hypnotize because they just didn't trust you enough, or they just weren't willing, or they were?
I've had people who never could be hypnotized. I could hypnotize them because they trusted me.
Okay.
If someone doesn't want to be hypnotized, they're not going to be hypnotized.
Exactly.
But it's not like you're clucking like a chicken and doing weird things that you're out of your control. I go in depth of what it really is and what it really isn't. And the guys that the women, there was a woman and a man that I helped going through cancer, and they're like, this is the best thing ever because I don't have to worry about the people who are worrying about me. Because they see them burning out, trying to help them out so much that it bothers them so much.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely.
It's really interesting.
Well, this has been fascinating. I could talk to you for another hour and a half.
Thanks. Yeah, it is. I mean, I love sharing the things that I've been through and the clients have been through, and just to give people hope that, hey, you're not crazy. You're just in a situation that you may need some assistance with.
Exactly.
And it's okay to get that assistance before you need it.
And I think you said something that's really key that a lot of people are challenged with. And by the way, we've got your website going across the bottom there.
Awesome.
So
thank you.
If people want to reach out to you, feel free to reach out to Shawn. You can find him. I like what you said, and I'll let you tie it up today with this, and then I'll sign us off.
Sure.
Max likes to keep us right on time. Temporary. I posted something on Facebook the other day. I went out, these amazing clouds. I went out and took a picture of the clouds, and I posted it on Facebook, and I said something to the effect, I'm going to paraphrase. I had a life coach back in 2007 when nobody knew what a life coach was.
Yep.
I was battling depression at the time, and so I was kind of stressed. And she said, this is before Zoom or anything. She said, I want you to put the phone down, and I want you to go outside, and I want you to watch the clouds for 5 minutes. I'm like, what? I'm paying you for this. So I put the phone down, I go outside and I watch the clouds. I come back in. She starts asking me questions about the clouds, and she goes, oh, they didn't stay the same, did they? They just kind of move. They just kind of come and go. And when she taught me that that's how emotions worked, that they just kind of come and go, that they're not just permanent, especially when you get focused on the bad ones,
right?
That we assign a negative value to, that helped me tremendously. So I'd like you to kind of wrap up and really, tie up what you do, but I like you to tie in that temporary, because I think so many people that are challenged think things are permanent, and they can't get out of their own way from thinking of that.
Yeah. The main thing is, if you're thinking about all the negative things, your head's down and you're not looking up to seeing all the possibilities that are actually around you that could assist you. And you're asking for help and you're asking for this, but you're not looking up to see it because it's there. It may not be the way you picture it to be, but trust me, it's there. And when you put some effort into it, push through that little extra, I want to quit, because on the other side of that is where all that amazing connection happens. What the light and the dark you see, it's one of those things that just keep going.
Awesome.
It's the rhythm of life that's important, not the big gust of wind all the time. It's that steady breeze that makes things actually move.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Thank you so much, Shawn.
Thank you for having me.
If you're out there and you're a CEO and you're looking to make changes in your life, reach out to Shawn. His website was there on the bottom. Come join me on Mondays, Carol's Courage to Confidence Corner. We talk business, we talk personal, we do a lot of fun stuff, and we've got a lot of people that show up every week. So it's just tons and tons of fun. Come back here next Wednesday. I'll be back on Max's show, and if you come back and ask me why I call Max Sugar Bomb, I'll tell you. Make it a great day, everybody.
The Intuitive Entrepreneur Show is hosted by Max and Janetta Jones and is brought to you by Life Coaching Today magazine, empowering your health, business, community, and life. This has been a production of True Awesome Life Productions, who asked, what does your true awesome life look like? Start that journey today at trueawesomelife.com. For more information on this or past episodes, go to theintuitiveentrepreneurshow.com.